The Samsung Galaxy A50 and the Galaxy M30 have so far fared pretty well in our tests and are two phones under 20,000 rupees that are definitely worth recommending.
Today we'll be taking a closer look at the Galaxy A30, which is the smaller sibling of the A50, which features two rear cameras instead of three and a lower powered SoC.
Now, in many ways, the Galaxy A30 overlaps with the Galaxy M30 both in features and price, so it's interesting to see how these two phones compare and if it makes sense picking this over the Galaxy M30.
The Galaxy A30 is a big phone to carry around even if you have large hands. Samsung has maximized the front of the phone by using a big 6.4-inch display with slim borders all around. It has a Super AMOLED panel, which means colors are vivid and everything from images to text really pops. The glossy sides and back look good, but also attract smudges and fingerprints just as easily. It has the appearance of glass, but it is actually plastic. The placement of the fingerprint sensor is a bit too high for our liking, as we often had to really stretch our index finger and at times even shuffle the phone around to reach it. It's quick at authentication though. You have the option for face unlock instead, but it's not too quick at times even under good light. There's no raise to wake gesture either, so you'll have to double tap the display to wake it. The SIM slot can accommodate 2 nano SIM cards and a micro SD card with dual 4G VoLTE support.
Overall, the Galaxy A30 is a well-built phone and it looks pretty decent too despite the plastic build. Now, it is available in multiple colors and the one we have here is supposedly the black version, although it looks more grey than black.
The Samsung Galaxy A30 is powered by the same processor as the M30, which is the Octa-core SoC. There's only one version of the phone in India, which comes with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. The big difference is that while the M30 runs Samsung Experience on top of Android 8.1 Oreo, the A30 runs on Samsung's new One UI, which is based on Android 9 Pie. Now, we've already seen One UI in action in recent phones such as S10 Plus, and the experience is pretty similar. The phone does support Samsung Pay Mini, which is a cut-down version that only lets you set up UPI accounts, gift cards, or payment wallets. Android Pie's digital well-being is also supported, which is nice to see. Now, when we first began using the phone, we received a lot of unwanted promotions from some of Samsung's pre-installed apps, and this was even before we even opened them. However, once you go through the initial setup of Samsung's App Store, you can opt out of receiving such information. You also get Samsung Max, which is a reincarnated Opera Max VPN, which lets you browse the internet securely. Other programs such as Calculator, Samsung Notes, etc. are all optional installs which you can opt out of when you first set up the phone. Now, we found the Galaxy A30 to be a good performer when using the usual chat and productivity apps. It's not the most fluid experience though, as there's always a bit of intermittent lag when you switch over to the Bixby home screen, whether you're trying to open the gallery after you've taken a picture, or simply accessing the recent apps carousel for switching between apps. The good news is that the phone doesn't heat up too much. It does get a bit warm when the CPU and GPU is really stressed, like when playing PUBG Mobile, but even after shooting a bunch of pictures and videos outdoors, the phone didn't really overheat. Now, the Exynos 7904 does a decent job with games, but we had to scale the graphics settings down in some of them for a smoother frame rate. Asphalt 9 Legends and PUBG Mobile both ran smoothly after dropping the graphics settings a bit. The audio output from the speaker is quite weak. It's especially low in games that we tested, but even in other apps such as YouTube, the volume doesn't get loud enough even when you're listening to it in a quiet room. Now, you can toggle Dolby Atmos for wired and Bluetooth headphones, which boosts the audio level and spatial separation a bit. There's no notification LED, but thanks to the AMOLED panel, you can enable the always-on display for checking the time and unread notifications. The Galaxy A30 has a 16-megapixel primary camera with an f1.7 aperture and a 5-megapixel wide-angle camera without autofocus. The camera app also has a scene optimizer, which we also saw in the Galaxy S10, which automatically detects objects and adjusts the exposure accordingly. Now, we notice that it boosts the color slightly and it also softens the textures a bit, which is not something you always want. Landscapes have fairly good detail, and with the wide-angle sensor, you can get a lot more of the scene in the frame. Now, there is a bit of a barrel distortion when using the wide-angle camera, and details aren't as good as the main one due to the lack of autofocus. Macros capture have good detail and colors under good light. Edges are sharp and well defined too, which is nice. Despite the wide aperture, low light landscapes are blurry and lack good detail. Noise is suppressed well, but overall the images are quite underwhelming. It's even worse when you switch the wide angle sensor in low light. Macros still fare a bit better, but it's still below average. The camera app has a typical shooting mode such as Panorama, Pro and Live Focus, which is Samsung's portrait mode. With the latter mode, you can adjust the level of background blur before and after you've taken the shot. Now, edge detection is good and it gets it right most of the time. However, in low light, images shot using the live focus look patchy and lack good detail. The front 60 megapixel selfie camera has an f2.0 aperture, which does an okay job in daylight. Selfies turn out a little soft for our liking, but colors are good and HDR works really well when shooting against light. There's live focus here too, but edge detection isn't very good. In low light, selfies lack good detail with visible grain. Now, the Galaxy A30 can shoot up to Full HD videos with good quality, but the lack of stabilization is a little disappointing. This means unless you're staying still, videos often end up looking shaky and unusable. Continuous autofocus isn't very quick either, as there's a visible lag when it's trying to refocus onto another subject. You can shoot with the wide-angle camera too, but details are a bit low, there's no stabilization, and the low-light footage looks a bit grainy. The 4000 mAh battery is one of the phone's strong suits. It lasted for a good 15 hours and 8 minutes in our battery loop test, which is well above average. Now, with day-to-day usage, we easily managed to push past more than a full day on one charge. The bundled fast charger is able to top up the battery to about 70% in an hour, which is not bad. Other than the good battery life, AMOLED display and decent build quality, there's not much else that really stands out in the Galaxy A30. The M30 is available for just a bit more money, but offers slightly better cameras, a bigger battery, and more RAM and storage. The processor in the A30 just isn't competitive enough at this price when you have phones such as the Oppo K1 and even the Redmi Note 7 Pro that offer much better app and gaming performance.
Now, the cameras on the Galaxy A30 are another letdown. While they do capture passable images under good lighting, they are severely lacking when shooting in low light. Overall, we'd give the Galaxy A30 a pass in favor of the Galaxy M30 or even more powerful options such as the Oppo K1 or the Redmi Note 7 Pro. So thanks for watching our review, and for all things tech, log on to gadgets360.com.